today the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel published a stunning revelation about some interviews that President Joe Biden conducted or was part of. Now, the Biden campaign requested that a local radio station make edits to a host's interview with Biden before it aired. And unfortunately, the station actually complied with the request. So we'll show you those two edits momentarily. Hold on for that. And you won't be surprised that the campaign didn't want these certain elements of the conversation to air. But first, we do need to give you some context. So this interview took place on a station called Civic Media, and it was recorded on July 3rd, and then it was aired on the 4th. The interviewer's name is Earl Ingram. He was already one of the individuals who admitted that the White House had actually sent him pre-approved questions, a list of questions that he could ask Biden ahead of time. And out of that list, he asked 4 of those questions, nothing else. Now, the Journal Sentinel has revealed that immediately after the interview, the Biden campaign called Civic Media and asked for 2 changes. So here, let's get to what the changes are. Here's what was edited out of the interview. At time 5 minutes, 20 seconds, the removal of, and in addition to that, I have more blacks in my administration than any other president, all other presidents combined, and in major positions, cabinet positions.
So let's hold and discuss that. The second quote I think is way worse, but
I agree.
Yeah, in that one, do you think that they wanted that out because he might not be right about the number of African Americans that served in his cabinet and major positions? Because I doubt that that statement is correct. I haven't done the math on it. Or because he referred to them as blacks.
I don't know for sure. Obviously, I'm speculating, but I always cringe when people say that, when they use the word blacks to refer to black people in America. Like, I don't know. Look, honestly, what is and is not acceptable in regard to language is always changing. So I'm not even certain if saying that is super bad now. But I know that I don't like it. Like, I don't know. It just seems weird and dehumanizing.
I should clarify. It could be both, right?
Right.
It could be that number's not anywhere near correct, and and look, I'm not a stickler for it. I don't think Anna's a stickler for it. So if you I don't think there's anything like some white liberals get nervous about saying the word black. Like, it's okay, you can say black. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But I've had more blacks serving. It does feel awkward. It feels
super
different.
Awkward. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
So that might be why, but now the second quote.
Okay, this is the second one. At time 14 minutes and 15 seconds, in reference to Donald Trump's call for the death penalty for the Central Park Five, the removal of, quote, I don't know if they even call for their hanging or not, but they said, convicted of murder.
Okay, 2 issues there. One is, of course, you have no idea what he's talking about. Guys, if you're doing a radio interview, you cannot assume that the audience knows who the Central Park Five is, what Donald Trump's role in that was, and why it was so atrocious. Now, he wants to bring that up to show how racist that Donald Trump is. So I'll explain it to you real quick, then I'll tell you the real problem with this quote. So those 5 kids, they were arrested for rape in Central Park and they went to prison for a long, long time. Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in the New York Times saying that they should be executed.
Right, okay. After they had been exonerated.
So no, first the executed was before they were exonerated.
Oh, got it, okay.
The ad was. Then they get exonerated later and Trump says, I don't care. They probably did something. What do you mean you don't care? You're gonna execute 4 or 5 minorities? Minority
for a crime
kids?
They didn't commit?
Or any 5 kids for a crime they didn't commit, right? But he's like, but that they probably did something is the most obviously racist thing, right? That's why Biden's bringing it up. But if you don't know that story, who could decipher what Biden said? No one. So he's a hot mess. And remember, these questions were written ahead of time by the White House and handed to the interviewer. So Biden not only has the question and knows it's coming, he likely has notes from his staff on how to answer it, and he still does that word salad. But that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is nobody was going to hang them in New York. Does he think that there was going to be hangings in New York?
Yeah.
Is he stuck in the 1800s? What is this?
Yeah, I disagree with you. I think the biggest issue is that it appears that this is just common practice with the Biden camp of pressuring the shows that he appears on to edit things out that make Biden look bad. Thus continuing with this trend of concealing the truth from the American people. And you can't have a democracy without an informed public, without journalism, without accurate reporting. If you have candidates who have an entire team surrounding them, covering up all the issues, and look, I get it. I get that every candidate's gonna put their best foot forward and they're not gonna be an open book. They're gonna try to conceal little things here and there, but this isn't a little thing. This is a man who's currently serving as president of the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, this is someone who obviously has real issues, cognitive issues that are now out in the open. Like they were just really hoping that no one would know about all this stuff and that he would somehow miraculously breeze his way to victory and be reelected again. It's crazy, and now everyone knows, and they're just going along. They're still doing the same stuff. They're still trying to conceal the public from the reality of the situation.
Yeah, because that's their only playbook. You're right, Anna. That's a giant takeaway from this story, which is they don't have another play. They're a one-trick pony. We're gonna intimidate the press into pretending that Joe Biden is fine. And if anybody gets out of line, well, we'll edit their interviews, we'll hand them the questions and not allow them to ask any bad questions. And if something goes wrong, we'll just gaslight the living crap out of it. In fact, that leads me to a CNN report earlier today, where one of the reporters said, this is what one top Democrat told me. They said, quote, everyone who expresses any level of suspicion or contrary views, they call everyone and they beat the crap out of them and say, stay on message. So we told you all this was happening. It's not like it wasn't obvious, it was right in front of you. The minute we showed you what they did to Dean Phillips. Again, put me, Marianne Williamson, RFK Jr. aside, they're outsiders. But Dean Phillips was an insider. And when he first came out and said, look, I'm a little concerned about his age, but he's got a wonderful record and I'm not gonna say anything against Joe Biden. They're like, okay, we tolerate him. The minute he criticized Joe Biden on anything, boom, they just avalanche. Oh, that Dean Phillips, he's an idiot, he's a rookie, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's hurting the Democratic Party. He might be trying to help Trump. He might be trying to help Trump. So whoever criticized Biden or just pointed out, look, there's issues here, their thug propagandists would go, whether you were media or you were in Democratic politics, and they would try to end your career for telling the people truth. So this is how they operate in DC. And pretending that they don't is lunacy.
This is a provocative question for Democrats, I totally understand that, but I want you to just be honest with yourselves and answer it honestly to yourself. What is a worse cover-up? A president, or a presidential candidate, I should say, who cheated on his wife with sex workers and adult film actresses? Or a presidential candidate who literally cannot function, has cognitive decline that's so severe that, I mean, the debate was a disaster, we all saw it. And he's continuing to make big mistakes. During a press conference at NATO right now, there's all sorts of headlines coming in about mistakes that he's making, calling Kamala Harris the wrong name. It's a nightmare. So what is a bigger, or more consequential, I should say, cover up?
So that's a really important distinction. What's more consequential? Because look, I think Donald Trump has done 100 things that are awful, and I won't. I mean, try to coup, for God's sake. That's the worst thing I've ever heard from any candidate ever in any election in my lifetime. So we've talked about that a lot. He did the fake elector plot, et cetera, right? Now, the affairs is just one of his like hundreds of scandals. I don't care about the affairs at all. I care if he doctors his books and campaign finance violations, et cetera. But overall, that's not important. What's important is, what do the American people think is a bigger problem? So a lot of Democrats, again, ODing on copium are like, oh, wait till they find out about his 34 felony convictions. Guys, the whole country knows, everybody knows. They're not gonna find out at the end. They all know already. It's baked into the numbers. and he's still crushing Biden. So what the American people are telling you is the fact that that guy's brain we think is not working is a bigger problem to us than the other guy being a crook and a crazy man. So why don't you pick someone who's young and vibrant and energetic and win the goddamn thing? Trump's so weak. He hasn't even put him away completely yet. If you get a new ticket, just pick any two governors, Andy Beshear and Wes Moore. Oh, you know how excited the Democratic Party is gonna be? The Democratic voters are gonna be? You're gonna get a fresh change. Then you're gonna get to run the election on how terrible Donald Trump is and how you got two successful young governors. You'd win easily. Why don't you wanna win? So please try to win. It's not at all too late. They gotta push him out, get new candidates, and don't just anoint Kamala Harris. That's the same exact problem. Oh, leadership has decided who the best candidate is. Have they? Have his inside advisors decided things? Because they have a pretty awful, disastrous track record of deciding things.
Now I want to allow you all to hear what Civic Media has to say about taking out and editing certain elements of that interview with Joe Biden. So on Monday, July 8th, it was reported to Civic Media management that immediately after the phone interview was recorded, the Biden campaign called and asked for 2 edits to the recording before it aired. Civic Media management immediately undertook an investigation and determined that the production team at the time viewed the edits as non-substantive and broadcast and published the interview. So in other words, they didn't think that the edits were that big of a deal. So they complied, and then they decided to broadcast the interview with the edits.
Again, the main point is, if they didn't do that, the Biden team would have had consequences. So for example, that station would have never gotten an interview ever again from any of the Democrats, because they have these lists, good guy list, bad guy list. The good guy list is filled with ass kissers and only ass kissers. And the bad guys are the ones that are telling the truth, according to the White House. And guys, don't get it twisted. Biden's got massive problems, and that's part of the reason why they're being even more thuggish, right? But overall, all these politicians lie to you. All these politicians try to get softball interviews and edit out the wrong parts. And they have a very, very compliant press. That is why it often works.
Look, Cenk, honestly, you and I have interviewed a lot of politicians. I can't think of a single example of a politician hitting us up after the interview or having their team hit us up after an interview demanding to edit things out, ever.
Yeah, a lot of politicians will say, oh, will you only ask about this?
And the answer is no. We will ask what we want to ask.
Right, and then they don't come on. That's why we don't have that many politicians, right? But you're right, Anna. I've never had a politician say, can you edit something out afterwards?
Right.
This is extraordinary.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.